A first-in-the-nation task force examining reparations in California released a nearly 500-page report on the harms caused by systemic racism that continue to impact Black Californians today. The California Reparations Task Force report lays out accounts of state and federal government actions that harm Black Americans over the past several decades, including slavery and mass incarceration. Also, the impact of these actions and how they remain present to this very day, where life expectancy for Black Californians, is 6 years shorter than the state average. And nearly 40% of the homeless population are Black, even though Black Californians represent only 6% of the overall state's population. Joining me now, Camila Moore. She's an attorney, and she's on the California Reparations Task Force. So this is really, really cool. Give us an greater understanding of the task force's research, because I love data. What are some key examples of systemic racism in the state of California?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Zerlina. So this past year is what I characterize as the study phase of the task force efforts, where we've been hosting virtual public hearings for this past year, inviting people to provide personal and expert testimony on a range of topics. And we started in September discussing the transatlantic slave trade, to the institution of U.S. chattel slavery and the afterlife of U.S. chattel slavery, namely Jim Crow in California, as well as more contemporary harms against the African American community that are a legacy of slavery, like mass incarceration, homelessness, and other areas that we are characterizing as badges and incidents of slavery. But to answer your question more directly, let's talk about criminalization. We found through our research, by inviting people to provide personal and expert testimony, right, that all levels of government, including local, state, and federal governments, have criminalized African Americans for the purposes of social control and to maintain an economy based on exploited Black labor.
Well, when you look into the details, you find that much of what you're saying is borne out by the data, which is what you looked at, and why I keep citing the fact that the report is 500 long pages. I mean, this report is the first government publication providing remedies to institutional racism against Black people since 1968, which feels like it should have happened sooner. Why did it take so long?
Well, that's a really good question. And, to answer that question directly, I think the reason why this task force exists is because of Black American leadership, namely Shirley Weber, who was an assembly member at the time, but she's now the Secretary of State of California. When she was an assembly member, she was the one who championed this bill, shepherded bipartisan support for the bill, and worked alongside grassroots organizers like Chris Lodson, Tiffany Quarles, Marcus Champion, Lori Jenkins, Chad Brown, so many other people who have worked to make this a reality. And that's actually the story of Black liberation in this country. It's always Black Americans, African Americans, American freedmen who are taking the lead despite the oppression that surrounds us.
I mean, what type of reparations will the task force recommend, you think, and who will be eligible for those reparations? There are so many different ideas that are possible. Lay out for us what you guys are going to do.
Yes. So, as I said earlier, this first year has marked the study phase. We're now transitioning to the development stage. We have this 500-page report that's chock full of data and testimony that essentially is, serves as an evidentiary record that substantiates a very clear claim for African Americans on the local, state, and federal level. We have another report that we're releasing next summer, which will be our final report, and that will include our final comprehensive reparations plan. I can't say for sure what's going to be in that plan, but I can say that our recommendations must comport with international human rights law standards. And under international law, there are 5 forms of reparations. Compensation, or cash, or a check is one of them. There's also rehabilitation, restitution, guarantees of non-repetition, and satisfaction.
That's really, really helpful. Camila Moore. Oh, go ahead, quickly.
Yeah, in terms of eligibility, the task force came to a historic 5-4 decision to affirm what we call lineage-based reparations. So those who would be eligible for reparations in the state are those who are descendants of free and enslaved Black people who were here prior to 1900.
That is important to add in there at the end. Camila Moore, thank you so much for being here. We'll have you back when you guys put out your final product. and find out what some of these reparations are going to be for Californians. Thank you so much again. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.